Welcome to Bayou Time. I'm Jacob DeGate, and it's my pleasure to be joined by Lafourche Parish President Archie Chaisson. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hey, Jacob, good to see you again.
Alrighty, first, of course, we've been talking, a bunch about, flood insurance and FEMA, with their risk rating 2.0. And there was a lawsuit filed. Can you tell us, they had a little bit of development, although no ruling yet. Can you tell us what went on recently in that?
Yeah, so we've been at this for months now, right? There's 10 states, I think 40 some odd parishes, 12 levy districts, the Association of Levy Boards, and of course Lafourche and Terrebonne were a huge part of this, right? We were one of the first ones to step up and join the AG's office. I know Dwayne Bourgeois and Corey Keefe from the Lafourche Levy District have been on the program before talking about this, and this is really kind of Corey's brainchild, right? And it's not that, we wanted to get to the point where we were talking suing the federal government, right? Nobody ever wants to go down that route. But when you meet with these guys over and over again, and you ask about, what's in this mystery algorithm that you came up with, right? What's in the box? You tell us we have all this risk, and that risk is driving the premium cost, right? And we're seeing people go from $500 to $5,000 a year for flood insurance. If you don't tell us what that risk is, then how are we ever supposed to fix it, right? If it's higher levies, then let's stack some more dirt on top of the levees, right? If it's bigger pump stations, then let's put some more pumps in the stations, right? But when you don't tell us, right, when you won't tell the congressional delegation of all people, right, you can tell me and President Dove where to get off the bus if you're FEMA, right? But when you tell that to Senator Cassidy and Senator Kennedy, it starts to irk you, especially when you're meeting, Miss Susie and Rouse's after church on Sunday, and she's crying because she didn't know how she's going to afford all this stuff. So it all banded together, filed the lawsuit on June the 1st with the Attorney General's office. Start of hurricane season, a little bit pronounced to do it on that day, right? A bunch of the parishes and other levy districts filed all these declarations about the impacts to our parishes, what it was doing to not only premiums, but the housing market and the tax base and what those detrimental effects would look like. So we finally got to the point what we thought was going to be several weeks ago where we were going to have a hearing on the injunction, right? We asked the judge to say, stop the program, right? And then let's remedy this either by FEMA opening the box and telling us what's in it, and so we can give them some input on how to fix it, or whether or not we work through the congressional actions and actually long-term reauthorization of the National Flood Insurance Program, and then, fixing the issues with risk rating 2.0, because at the end of the day, this is not a law, right? This is an administrative function that FEMA and DHS has taken upon themselves to implement, right? So it's nothing that's ever had a congressional hearing, nothing that's ever gone through the law process. So we got to the point where we thought we were going to have a hearing on the injunction. Well, FEMA popped up a couple of days before and filed a motion to dismiss the entire lawsuit. They said that, as states and parishes, we don't have standing to do this, that, just the claims of rate increases aren't enough of a good enough reason for us to say, hey, Judge, you need to stop this program. So fast forward, the judge says, all right, we'll give you 2 weeks to put all the documents together. So last Thursday, we probably had, 4 or 5 parish presidents in the room, myself, President Dove, President Hinckley from Plaquemine, President Jewell from St. Charles, and President Cooper from St. Tammany, along with some levy district directors, and, our assessor was there. And we actually had a dual hearing, right? The judge heard the argument about the motion to dismiss, and whether or not the state and the parishes, the levy boards, had standing to actual file the litigation and move forward. And the judge also heard some testimony and some commentary about the preliminary injunction request and whether or not we could stop the program. And overall, I think the hearing went really well. The testimony of President Jewell, our assessor, Casey Tingle from GOSEP, who's their director, talking about, how we have all this hazard mitigation money and all the post-disaster dollars to help people elevate their homes and do different things to help reduce the risk of flooding, right? But there's a mandatory purchase of flood insurance on the back end of this. And when people realize what those ultimate premiums are going to be, they're dropping out of the program. The assessor talked about, as houses have to sell for less to make up for the difference in what those flood insurance premiums are going to be, it's causing a drop in the housing market, which causes a reduction in assessments, which overall leads to less money coming into the parish coffers from ad valorem taxes. So I think the hearing went really well. The testimony and the argument of the AG's office was really good. It looked like we got the B-team lawyers from DOJ. They looked all of about 12. But they were really good. They had some good arguments and made some valid points, I think, in the long run. At the end, in the closing, Judge Papillon, who's in the Eastern District in federal court, asked some very pointed questions of their attorneys, trying to get some clarity, because it it seemed like their argument wasn't truly making sense to him. So he took it under advisement. I'm hopeful that in the next 30 or 45 days, and you would probably know this better than I do. I don't know how long federal judges take to rule, right?
Well, yeah.
Sometimes it could be a while, and that's what I'm hopeful, that we don't get drug out in the process. That he makes a ruling, and either, we won the argument and we get the injunction, and we move on to either the full lawsuit or a congressional fix, or for some reason we lose the argument, then short period of time and we're appealing it, right?
Sure.
And that's the ultimate goal, is to figure out how to stop the program where it is now, to stop the 18% a year increases that we're seeing, to stop the arduous premiums if you built a new house or trying to buy a house and you're trying to put flood insurance on it, and you're seeing those $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 rate increases or premium costs. So hopefully we'll get to that point. Like I said, if not, we'll appeal it. I don't think by any means this is the end for us. If the judge says, "Yep, you're out," the injunction's not there, or for some god awful reason he says, "Yep, FEMA was right. You don't have the standing," and the lawsuit's put to bed. I think the AG's office, the Solicitor General, and all of us are willing to go that next step and appeal that to make sure that we can fight for our residents.
Sure, and it's certainly a complicated thing, but it's so complicated they don't even know how. I think that's a lot of the problem, is they don't know the answers on how a lot of people within FEMA and that organization don't know exactly what the risk or how they come up with the risk.
That's right.
And that's one of the huge problems. But thank you for providing that update. We do need to take another quick break, but I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about a few things right after this.
Yeah.
Okay, stay tuned for more right here on HTV.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.
Welcome back to Bayou Time. I'm Jacob DeGate, and I'm joined here by Lafourche Parish President Archie Chaisson. We're talking, a little bit about FEMA in the past, but can you move on to, there's of course a lot going on in Lafourche Parish. Can you give us some updates on different recovery efforts and what all the projects that you have ongoing?
Yeah, I told the story earlier before I came to the studio today. I was on a webinar for the National Association of Counties talking about resiliency and how do we build capacity and in those different metrics, right? Whether we're talking about funding or staffing or stuff like that. And it was weird because we talked about funding and how do you work through that FEMA process and what it looks like for local governments. And it's been hard enough in the past 2 years to work through that process for we're a decent sized county when it comes to stuff across the country. But some of these smaller counties, I don't know how if they were ever hit with something like an Ida, how they would survive, right? We're talking, Lafourche has a little over $225 million in damages, right? Whether we're talking $30 million in debris that we've picked up so far, $35 million in damage to our buildings, $40 million in damage to pump stations and rec facilities and stuff like that. So it added up pretty quick for us. We've gotten about $30 million back from FEMA so far. Most of that has been in our debris efforts. We're winding down. Like most people, we stopped the right-of-way process some time ago and picking up just stuff on the side of the road. But we're working through some 300 properties that signed up for FEMA's demolition program. So when you think about taking 300 houses out of the economy, that's a big deal. And where do we put people? We still have probably some 700-800 people in temporary housing. Most of those people are renters that were either in one of our public housing complexes or some of the bigger apartment complexes, or may have been in one of those 300 homes that are being demolished that people had as far as renters. But so there's still a couple of big debris trucks running around. We're finally getting to the point now working with FEMA where we have some confidence on some of our building projects that we're going to get reimbursed on the back end for. So you see a lot of roofing work happening. We've done the DA's office in downtown Thibodaux. We've done our big government complex in Matthews. The roofer started last week on the big government complex in Galliano, which will hopefully bring a lot of those services back to the people of South Lafourche, especially Galliano, Golden Meadow, That complex also housed the DA's office, the clerk of court, the assessor, the registrar of voters. So, quick thank you to the Port Commission. They moved back into their main building in Galliano. So the little building they were in behind them that they purchased a couple weeks before the hurricane, we've partnered with them to put the assessor and the clerk and the registrar in that smaller office space to bring some of those services, so people aren't having to drive all the way to Lockport or Thibodaux to get, kind of in touch if they need something from one of those agencies. So, that's been a great effort. Hopefully once the roof is done in Galliano, we're going to turn our attention back to the inside and building out the library that was there. We had 3 Head Start classrooms down there for our South Lafourche kiddos through that program. We know we're going to see some expansion, so we're adding a 4th classroom, kind of thinking ahead and what growth is going to look like as far as the population of kids down there that would qualify for our Head Start program. And then, of course, with the DA, the registrar, all those people are going to have office spaces in there as well. We're in the final stages of designing the new health unit for South Lafourche as well. The health unit we had in Galliano was hit pretty hard by the hurricane, but then when we went in there to remediate the water damage and some of the issues we had, we found a huge termite infestation.
Oh, Lord.
So at that point, we were just like, you know what, let's just work past it. So we're going to demolish it and build a brand new facility on the other side of the parking lot where the old Galliano annex was that we tore down several years ago. So it'll work out. We'll have space there to renovate and add some mental health capacity down there. The opioid settlement dollars are starting to flow to the parishes now from the lawsuit that the AG's office had against those companies. So having some mental health capacity down there and some drug treatment facilities that we can work through the health unit down there. We just opened bids and the council approved it at our last council meeting, a brand new animal shelter. So if you've ever driven kind of over toward the Sheriff's Correctional Complex next to the old jail, we have a very small animal shelter that was built by some trade school students after Hurricane Katrina.
Oh, really?
And the building has seen better days, right? So our Animal Shelter Advisory Board for several years has kind of been after us to work through how do we build a new shelter that has proper ventilation and, a room where people can mix with the animals to test out the animal with maybe a kid or something else before they adopt it. So we're going to start construction on that very soon. And then in conjunction with that, we're actually knocking down the old jail. Now that Sheriff Weber has built the correctional complex across the street, the old jail is kind of obsolete. We don't really need it. Saw some damage for the hurricane. So instead of trying to rehab that facility or let it sit and do nothing with it, we're just going to take it down, fence in the yard, and really open up some additional space for the animal shelter. Let the dogs and stuff run around. Again, give people an opportunity to be able to play with the animals. We have a huge volunteer network through the animal shelter that people will actually go in there and play with the animals to acclimate them to humans if they're not, or just give them some entertainment so they're just not kind of in a kennel. A few years ago, Hillary Detillia, who runs our animal shelter, got a huge grant from Petco that built a little medical suite. So we're doing some spay and neuter stuff and in there with a local vet that we've brought in to kind of help partner with the animal shelter. So a lot of cool things happening up around there. It'll look a little different as we work through that. This last legislative session, Senator Ed Price was able to get us some money. He represents that kind of northern part of wing of Thibodaux around Hidros Park and the veterans area. I got us some planning dollars to build a new community center. So we're going to do kind of like what we did in the Raceland community and did part community center, part Head Start. We'll merge the 3 Head Start sites we have in Thibodaux into one new state-of-the-art building. So we're excited to get that project engineered and designed. And luckily, he put some trailing money in there in the P5 realm. So hopefully this next session that we go into next year, we get that trailing money, we'll have a building design, and we'll have a brand new facility up there for our kiddos.
Well, a lot of work being done, a lot of update, a lot of changes, but updating some stuff that I guess that's the one good thing that comes out of disasters. You get to build a lot of new stuff, but certainly wouldn't trade it.
No.
All right, we do need to take another quick break, but we'll be back with more right here on HTV.
Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough.
Welcome back to Bayou Time. I'm Jacob DeGate, and we're here with Lafourche Parish President Archie Chaisson. Was telling us, a list of projects. You went through a numerous amount already, but that's just the beginning. You got some more to talk about as well.
Yeah, and I know we were joking during the break, Jacob. I always forget to send the pictures to Jason before so we can kind of pull some of this stuff up. But, looking back towards some of the hurricane recovery projects, our parks, especially in South Lafourche, were hit pretty hard. And for years we've put up, we've just reinstituted the wooden poles, right? We just stuck the lights back on them and let the kids play. And, this kind of go around, FEMA has this, what they've called consensus-based codes and standards policy that says, if you can find a code that other people are using across the country and you can apply it to a project and it gets you a better project, then FEMA will recognize it and pay for it. So we've kind of started to dig into that, right? And we found in other places that have been hit by natural disasters, they've used Little League standards and stuff like that for rec facilities. So one of the things we said was, look, over the last, 15, 20 years, especially looking back all the way to Katrina, we've been hit by X number of events. These are how many times you've changed out these wooden light poles, right? Would holistically make sense if we looked at metal poles on concrete foundations. So that's what we did, and they bought into it. So all of the rec facilities that we're working with, whether they be Heroes Park in Thibodaux, Rayson, or South Lafourche, you're going to see new LED lights on metal poles with concrete bases in the hopes that they don't fall over the next time. And I don't think they will. They'll be engineered, designed, and it'll be brighter lights. And believe it or not, when we bid out the project in South Lafourche, they take care of La Rose and Golden Meadow. It's about $1.4 million in total for those two facilities. And going with LED lights was cheaper than the old high-pressure sodium lights. So we're actually using updated codes but saving FEMA money on the back end. So that was a good thing. And I know people in South Lafourche are going to be thrilled when those projects, again, start to kick off, because we've been doing reg ball and some different things, but we've kind of been relegated to daylight hours because some of the lighting wasn't enough to have those facilities. One of the other big projects that I'm excited about is in the Rayson area. We had a huge agricultural facility kind of behind the Pink School on 308. We have a lot of 4-H kids in our parish that do shows. Our district show is always in January, and then the kids go up to the state show and stuff from there. And then every November, the parish kind of holds a big show event, kind of as a prelude to the January shows. But people from all around the state come in and show their animals. So we had those two existing barns back there, the old one from back in the 60s and the new one that we built back in 2013, 2014. Well, the old one got kind of decimated by the hurricane. So we went to the parents of the kids who show. We went to the roping club and said, look, historically, we haven't kind of had any kind of cross-reference between the two groups, but now's the opportunity to build something pretty decent if we can partner with everybody and make it work. So, working with our architects, we've developed kind of a 300 by 100 brand new covered arena that'll be used not only for the shows and the kids, but also be an area where the Lafourche Roping Club can have a rodeo or a horse show under a covered facility. We no longer have to worry about weather. So that project's fully designed, out to bid. We're going to open bids on it October 10th. Hopefully see some construction start before the end of the year. And our goal is to have it ready by the November rodeo, the big CRA rodeo event that brings in a couple of thousand people to Raceland and cowboys from kind of all across the region. So that to me is going to be really cool. It'll open up some new economic development activity where we can host some bigger horse shows, host some bigger rodeos, host some bigger animal events and some showing events, as well as have a bigger space that if we need it, our cattlemen need a space for their cattle during a natural disaster, if something floods or whatever. We have a space now big enough where we can put a significant amount of animals, and separate them by pens. And people will be staying here. They'll be buying gas. They'll be staying in a hotel. So it opens up some doors for us. And then we always kind of turn to the drainage infrastructure. We've been working on a couple of newer kind of consolidated pump stations since we took office in 2020. Kind of not tied to the hurricane, but now we're going to use FEMA's, again, those consensus-based codes and standards against them. But we're almost very close to going out to bid. We finally received the permit on the new Butch Hill pump station, which is kind of behind St. Anne Hospital in Raceland. Going to combine it in the old Twin Oaks pump station, the one new kind of state-of-the-art station. And just looking at drainage a little bit different, working really closely with the levee district and their forced drainage areas, and how do we get away from having a pump station behind every street, right? Kind of taking a page out of President Dove's playbook when it comes to drainage infrastructure. Guys taught me a whole heck of a lot over the last 4 years about it, but Dylan Baroni, who's our public works director, comes from that land surveying world, and has laid out a lot of pump stations and surveyed a lot, if not all of Lafourche Parish, and a lot of drainage infrastructure in his early career. So he's a huge resource for us when it comes to that. How do we kind of build things a little bit better, a little bit bigger, where we're moving water more efficiency and less cost in the long run, using less diesel, better pumps. So we're really excited about a lot of things. We're running up against fair season coming up in October. La Fête de Vieuxtemps the first weekend of October, and then we jump to the Chagbay Gumbo Festival and French Food Festival. Cutoff Houston Hurricane Festival is this weekend, so we start off the last weekend in September. So if you're looking for something cool to do, Lafourche Parish is going to be the place to be over the next 4 or 5 weeks as we run through that festival, and parade season and queens everywhere and stuff like that. So we're doing pretty good overall.
Weather is going to be starting to get nice. Every now and then it peaks out. You get a little coolness in the air, but it's going to be perfect for those upcoming fairs and everything. It's certainly fall weather is almost here.
That's right. And look, I know I don't work out in the heat like a lot of people do in a lot of ways, but man, I'll take that 105-degree heat every day if it keeps the hurricanes away, right? Knowing there's a cool front coming in the next few weeks makes it a little bit easier to tolerate now, but we've been very lucky we got through last year, and it looks like hopefully we're going to get through this year without another major event, so we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, it certainly, I like droughts, dealing with that, in South Louisiana. That's certainly good news for us. But thank you for coming up and updating us on everything. We certainly appreciate your hard work.
Thanks, Jake. I appreciate it.
All right, stay tuned for more right here on HTV.